Well, it seems that we may be hitting somewhat of a unique and potentially concerning part of the job marketplace. We are seeing layoffs as companies somewhat right size their operations. And at the same time, you are seeing recent college graduates find it harder to get that first job. So, what does this all mean for them? And especially, what does it mean for the importance and the value of a degree or even going for your master's? Pleasure to be joined right now by Manav Raj, who's an assistant professor of management here at the Wharton School. Manav, how are you? Great to talk to you again.
I'm doing well, Dan. Thanks for having me.
And so you're right in the middle of this, probably seeing and hearing from some of your students as, some of the issues that they are dealing with right now.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, I see this on both sides of things. My research studies technology change and has focused a lot on AI. So obviously thinking about the job market effects of that technology. And certainly in the last few years, teaching tech strategy and interacting both with undergraduates and with the MBA students here. There's a lot of conversation and concern and thought about, what the job market might look like and how students should be preparing themselves best for the future.
So let's start with the AI component because it's obviously one of the biggest questions out there right now, and a lot of discussion as to just how much AI is going to impact the workforce in the years ahead. Let me ask you this then from two perspectives. One, what are you seeing right now? And two, what is your expectation 10 or 20 years out in terms of how AI will be impacting the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start actually with the second question. 10 to 15 years out, I think I expect it to have large impacts. As many of us know, especially those of us who are using these kinds of technologies, the capabilities are fairly impressive given, how rapid the progress has been and our ability to do things have changed, right? Like I use it day to day in my work as well. It's altered kind of the ways that I carry out many of my tasks. And I'm sure that's the case in many white collar occupations even at the early stage of the technology is relative to where it'll be in 15 years. When we think about the job market impacts right now, it's something that me and my colleagues, are very curious about because there's just a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we have uncertainty in the macro environment generally right now, I think, but especially with this technology, the tools are developing rapidly. There is a big learning curve in figuring out how best we can deploy them. And even as we know that they improve our individual productivity, there's an organizational component of how do firms and organizations actually reallocate tasks and move things around in a way that the firm is able to also increase the productivity of the
It,
aggregate.
is that, at least in the short term, the important question right now is just how much it can have an impact. How does it change somebody's job on a week to week, month to month basis in terms of, obviously the help they can get from things like Chat GPT, but how it may change some of the dynamics of what their job actually becomes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we think about jobs in my field oftentimes as like a bundle of tasks or skills, right? And what we have is this new technology coming in and changing the value or in changing how we do some of these different tasks, right? So if, for example, you're a copywriter, right? Perhaps some of the tasks you've done previously about actually writing some of these lines becomes automated, and you have to reallocate your tasks and your time in a different way, right? And so some of those are done at the individual level, right? Again, when I'm playing around with these tools and trying to figure out how I can best use them for my research, I'm reallocating on my end. And then again, when we're thinking about the job market, a big question mark right now is how do firms move things around and how are they understanding where they want to be reallocating their workers and changing their hiring.
What does this mean then for the students moving forward? And I kind of open it by saying, what is this going to mean for the type of degree that they're going to want to get? Are they going to want to pursue a master's degree if there is? I mean, it's kind of that balance between, and maybe we don't know yet, how much of this is still going to be human and how much of
Yeah,
this is going to be technology.
absolutely. I mean, I think there is a lot of uncertainty here. Obviously, as a business school professor, I want to be bullish on
Sure.
master's education in general, and I am. But I think it's a challenge for us as educators to think about how we can retain the value in the degree. Just as with other technology changes in the past, the kind of work will shift. Right? I know when I talk to my colleagues, we may care a little bit less about the case write-ups that the students are doing right now, because maybe it's pretty trivial to come up with a reasonably high quality case write-up with ChatGPT, but I want to understand how the students are thinking creatively. I want them to work on their communication skills, the kinds of things that I think are a little bit more protected, I guess, at this point, from these technologies. Whereas there may be other skills that are a little bit more exposed.
Is this then the beginning of a path where we will see change continuing to occur? And it always does, but when you think about how AI is going to factor in, and then there are probably a variety of jobs where quantum computing in the next several years is going to be impacting those jobs as well. And it feels like we're starting to get into a pattern where technology is going to play a larger role in everything we do.
I think that seems to be the case. I mean, when we think about previous generations of technology change that may have led to automation, we oftentimes think of things like manufacturing, right? And I think what's different here, perhaps, is that this is affecting a lot of what we think of as high skill work, white collar occupations where like cognitive skills and communications come into play. And that obviously opens up, a much larger swath of the economy and the labor market to be thinking about these effects manifesting in.
Are you seeing sectors right now that maybe aren't as affected by AI as others right now, and whether or not they're just playing catch up at the moment, or maybe they are going to be a little bit devoid of having that serious AI impact moving forward?
Yeah, as of right now, I think one of the things that people have talked about a lot with these new technologies is that they seem to be general purpose technologies in the sense that they can have impacts in many sectors and many settings. And I suspect over the long run, we'll see that. In the short run, definitely there's some industries and sectors paying more attention to this and that have just figured out how to use these tools better. Or perhaps maybe another way to put it is the tools are better suited for the task, right? And so programming is like a really easy one to think about, right? Both in terms of people who are in these technology industries are very aware of what's happening here, and these tools are very good at many of these coding kinds of tasks. So I think we could, if we're imagining where we might start seeing some of these effects pop up first, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them, start showing up in kind of coding and programming jobs, and then kind of slowly diffusing out into other areas. But again, even there, I think there is this question of like trying to figure out the organizational implications. And one example I'll just toss out is that, you know, there's some research that has been done or evidence that can suggest that, many of these AI tools can carry out tasks that can be done by entry level consultants or things like that. But the problem is if you automate those tasks, you're not helping your entry level consultants develop the skills that they need to kind of move up in the organization and do things that the AI can't do, right? And so I think these are the kinds of questions that firms are thinking through. And, I suspect we're going to see a little bit of some time before we have good answers to them.
I'll finish up on this. What do you think then is the longer term message that needs to be sent to people heading into the workforce, whether you're a college graduate or you're, looking for a blue collar job, whatever it is? And on top of that, how then potentially does that impact how you and your colleagues are thinking about the type of research that you're going to conduct?
Yeah. I mean, so the advice that I give my students, and maybe this feels like a very basic piece of advice, is, if you're worried about the concerns of AI, just use these tools a lot first. And I think that's kind of the first order condition to understanding how to respond to them is just understanding them. What are they good at? Where can they help me? Where are they going to make my skills redundant? And then try and, push towards the things that you think you can actually bring value on. For our research, it's certainly something that I think people in my field are also interested in and concerned about. There was an interesting presentation I saw recently where, they were analyzing working papers, research in progress, and they're saying, a large majority of papers now, or there's a big increase in influx of research that may use these tools too. And obviously there are questions around quality and, kind of the provenance of what comes out of this. So I'm trying to follow the same advice I'm giving my students. I'm using these a lot. I'm trying to figure out, where can I be effective on using these tools to improve the quality of the product and improve my productivity. But it's still a work in progress, certainly on our end too.
Manav, appreciate your time and your insight. All the best.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Manav Raj, Assistant Professor of Management here at the Wharton School.